With less than a day before the Wailing Caverns Mini-Set arrives for Forged in the Barrens, we finally got to see what's coming. So there hasn't been much time to theorycraft decks yet. If you're eager to experiment with new legendaries coming out with the mini-set, we've got 2 experimental decks for each legendary you can try out from day 1. Before we hop into it, let me mention that there are timestamps and deck codes for each deck in the description below if you'd like to jump to one you're interested in. Now, let's get into the decks. The first couple decks are aimed at getting value from Mutanus the Devourer. Mutanus is a 7-mana 4/4 Murloc with a battle cry to eat a minion in your opponent's hand and gain its stats. As you can't be certain what you'll get from the opponent's hand, and you may miss devouring a power minion from your opponent's hand, we wanted the option to play Mutanus multiple times. But we also wanted to capitalize on the fact that Mutanus is a Murloc as well. So we made this Mutanus Menagerie Miracle Rogue, using a Menagerie Rogue shell with Shadow Steps and Tin Wu of the Red Smoke for potential bounces on Mutanus. And if the opponent kills Mutanus before we bounce him, we can resummon Mutanus from Zoth. But if we manage to devour what we're looking for with the first Mutanus, we can just bounce Jandis or Alexstrasza to pressure the opponent to the brink of death, as you've likely seen Miracle Rogue do a number of times until now. This is a nice, slight twist on Menagerie Miracle Rogue, which allows us the opportunity to get quite a bit of extra value from Mutanus. Enjoy devouring your opponent's combo pieces. Now, although Mutanus is a neutral card, when looking for ways to get extra value from him, we kept coming back to Rogue due to the cheap bounce options. This second deck is also a Miracle Rogue, but it's not as focused on the Menagerie value as the Disruption value this time. This delightful Disruption Miracle Rogue runs 2 copies of Savory Deviate Delight in addition to Mutanus for even more disruption. And the wand makers could potentially generate extra copies of Savory Deviate Delight to allow you to mess with the opponent even more. Now, since Savory Deviate Delight hits a minion in your hand as well, it can transform your own combo pieces into somewhat less desirable minions as well. So you'll either want to play out any high value minions you have before playing the Savory Delight, or just realize that you're likely to take a hit for the meme. For this reason, this one will probably have a lower win rate, but it has a higher probability of wrecking your opponent's dreams. So, if you're feeling particularly vicious, this is probably the deck to go with. Enjoy the savory salt from your opponent's tears when you play this deck. Next, let's look at a couple decks for Archdruid Naralax. He's a 3-mana 3/3 who's dormant for 2 turns, and on the turns he's dormant, he'll add a dream card to your hand at the end of your turn. We could put him back to sleep for an extra turn with Maya of Shadowsong, or bounce him back to our hand once he wakes up with Rogue to get more value. However, we didn't want too many decks from a single class in this list. However, Shaman has already been using dream cards quite effectively in a few decks, so Naralax feels like a nice fit in the class. The first deck is this Lucid Dreaming Control Shaman, which includes Ysera and Alakir, as well as Diligent Note Taker for the 22 damage finisher with Alakir. And with Naralax's help, we may be able to pull off the finisher more consistently. He won't be guaranteed to give us Nightmare as one of the dream cards, but all of the dream cards function fairly well in the control deck, so he should fit right in. Let's see if we can take control of our dreams with this deck. Again, Naralax is a neutral card, so we certainly could dive into other classes to get value from him, but a deck we're excited to use him in is this Primal Dreams Elemental Shaman. Ysera and Alakir are the top end of the damage of this Elemental Shaman deck, but Naralax may help us close out the game a bit faster. One concern for this deck is that it is more tempo-oriented, and Naralax doesn't provide any immediate board presence, but most of the dream cards should make up for the tempo loss. Ysera Awakens will feel a bit disappointing to get when we're the ones in control of the board, but the rest of the options can help us take over the board or pressure the opponent. As for why we're excited to include this deck, it includes the new Primal Dungeoneers to cycle through the deck faster, as well as the Wailing Vapors, which synergize extremely well with the heavy elemental package in the deck. This one should be able to close out games a lot faster than the control version, and we're hoping that Neralax can contribute a fair bit to our primal dreams of elemental domination. Now we get to look at decks for the legendary I'm most excited about from the mini set, Kresh, Lord of Turtling. He's a 6-mana 3/9 beast for warriors with a frenzy effect to gain 8 armor and a death rattle to equip a 2/5 turtle spike. One thing that's awesome about Kresh is that both Overlord Saurfang and N'Zoth can bring him back for additional frenzy and weapon value. So we set out to make 2 decks which include Kresh, Saurfang, and N'Zoth. The first is this Rush to Kresh deck built into a Rush Warrior shell. We dropped all the other frenzy minions except Stonemaul Anchorman, who can help us cycle through the deck more efficiently. The deck plays out like most Rush Warriors with a Troublemaker and Alexstrasza finisher, but there's one more surprise to take advantage of the very resilient weapon we get from Kresh, Nitro Boost Poison. So we can finish off opponents with pressure from the Rush and Troublemaker package, Burst from Alexstrasza, a massive board from N'Zoth, or multiple sizable hits from a buffed Turtle Spike. The Nitro Boost Poison isn't wasted when used on the Gnarg or Sword Eater weapons, but it'll feel great when we're swinging a 4/5 or a 6/5 Turtle Spike into the opponent. Have fun rushing down opponents. Of course, if you prefer a little more of a control style play with Kresh, he'll be great for that too. This controlled turtling deck runs a control package with Cthulhu as an alternate finisher. However, it still runs both Overlord Saurfang and N'Zoth for additional value from Kresh, and it includes the Nitro Boost Poison, which feels a bit peculiar in a deck with Bulwark of Azzinoth, but all the other weapons, including the Turtle Spike, feel great with a little extra damage. And hey, Dr. Krastenov can help whichever weapon you prefer to get even more value. The deck has an impressive amount of draw mixed in with the control tools, and with Kresh's help, you've got a lot of options while you're turtling behind your defenses. And the last legendary from the mini set is Lady Anacondra. She's a 6-mana 3/7 for druids with an effect to make your nature spells cost 2 less. There are quite a few directions we could go with Lady Anacondra, but we decided to be a little greedy and include Guff Rune Totem in both decks we're featuring today, so that the discounted nature spells get us even more value. The first deck is this Guff's Lady Likes Tokens. It uses a token druid shell, which includes a nature spell or 2 that wouldn't normally make the cut, such as landscaping, with an aim at getting max value from Lady Anacondra when the game goes long enough to play her. This is honestly just a weaker, or rather a bit slower version of Token Druid, but especially when played alongside Guff, Lady Anacondra will allow you to build a massively buffed board at a discount. Will it be too late in the game for a buffed board to matter? We'll have to see, but what we do know is that Guff's Lady really does seem to like tokens. And the last deck for today is this Celestial Serpents deck, which takes Lady Anacondra and Guff in a different direction. Celestial Alignment will allow us to play all of our nature spells for free alongside Lady Anacondra. So if we get the right cards in hand, we can flood the board with massive pressure the turn after Celestial Alignment. If we don't draw a ramp early on, this deck will suffer, but there's a decent bit of stall for the mid game and remarkable recovery options in the late game, even if we don't get Celestial Alignment on curve. But one of the reasons we wanted to highlight this deck in particular is because it also runs the new Deviate Dreadfang as well. After Celestial Alignment alongside Lady Anacondra, we can summon a bunch of Rushing Vipers quite quickly. Or Guff could buff the Rushing Vipers to help them make even better trades. And at that point in the game, Guardian Animals will be able to summon Deviate Dreadfang onto the board for us. It will feel a bit slow to play Deviate Dreadfang when we haven't drawn our Celestial Alignment, but Innervate and Nature Studies will still give it a chance to help fight for the board. I honestly have no idea how well this deck will perform, but I'm excited to try it out. Let's summon a bunch of Celestial Serpents. And that's it this time. There are many other experimental decks we'll be trying out over the next few weeks, but these are a few you can try on day 1 to get value from a couple of the new Legendaries. We'll be experimenting with each of these decks for at least one game each during our streams this weekend at twitch.tv/SSAlchemist. So if you'd like to see these decks in action or share your own ideas, hop on over and say hi. Hopefully this was helpful as a starting point for your own deck experiments. If so, drop a like and comment down below with your own twist or the results you had with the decks. We'll be sharing gameplay highlights with these and other experimental decks soon, and our gameplay achievement guides will continue while including new gameplay achievements that arrive with the mini-set. So be sure to check back or subscribe so that you can see those when they come out. And as always, remember, you're awesome. Thank you for watching and have an awesome day.
Strength and honor. This is who we